Alright, so I'm so glad that you guys got to watch that video, and I hope that we were really thoughtful when we were watching it and thinking about our answers to those questions as they did the stop and pauses. Okay, so let's think back to what that video was about. Think back in your brain what that video was about. So in that video, they talked about conflict. And so conflict is when two people might disagree or have different views on something. And so we got to see how in the Sesame Street they were disagreeing with each other. So conflict is not always a bad thing. It's just how we deal with conflict that's important. So conflict is going to happen a lot of the times. It could happen in your day-to-day life, and it's going to happen for the rest of your life. You might have a different opinion or a view on something than someone else, and that's okay. But we just need to learn how to deal with conflict and how to make everyone happy in that situation. Okay? So the first thing that we need to do when we're talking about conflict is identify our feelings and emotions. So if something upsets us and we don't understand why that person wants us to do something, or they have a different opinion than us, we need to assess how we're feeling, what our emotion is. Maybe we're frustrated, maybe we're angry, maybe we're sad. So once we've identified that emotion in ourselves, it's so important to share that emotion with the person that we're with. So whoever you're in the conflict with, you need to make sure that they know how you're feeling and you know how they're feeling. So that is very, very important, is to understand how each other is feeling, because that's how we can make the step to make this conflict resolved, how we can make each other happy. Okay? So the way that we can tell each other our feelings is just by talking about it, by having a conversation person to person of how we're feeling and how what they're doing makes us feel. Okay? And so to have that conversation, we need to do a couple things to get ourselves ready. In the video, they talked about how we could take a couple deep breaths, we could go get a drink of water, take a walk with an adult, or even talk to a trusted adult about how to have that conversation. Those are all really important things that we can do to help us get ready to have that conversation to resolve the conflict. Okay? And so let's think about ways to resolve the conflict. So once you've had that conversation and you've talked about your feelings, now we need to think about how we can make both you and the other person happy. We could do that by making a compromise. And a compromise is when we get to do something different that both people enjoy. So like in the video where Z wanted to go out and play in the rain, or Z did not want to go out and play in the rain, but his friends did, they could have made they made the compromise that Z could wear his rain jacket outside so he wouldn't feel the rain as much. That was a great compromise. So think in your head if there's another compromise that they could have come to that would have made everyone happy, all three of them. Think in your head for a second. They could have, instead, if they all wanted to, they could have gone inside and read a book. And if they'd all wanted to, they could have gone inside and done a puzzle. It's whatever all three people want to do that's going to make them happy. So that's really important to remember with compromising, is that it's something that all three people get to agree to do to make them happy. Okay, so let's think back on what conflict is. Get that definition in your head. What's a conflict? Think about a couple of ways that we can solve that conflict. Maybe talking about it, sharing our emotions. And think about why it's important that we solve our conflicts and share our emotions. Think about that. Why is it important that we solve that conflict? Think about it in your head for a second. Okay, so I'm so happy that we got to do this little activity together. And you guys are going to go ahead and do an activity on your own. On your journal page, with the picture and the writing, we're going to do like we do on other Wellness Wednesdays. And I want you guys to think about a conflict that you've had in the past with maybe a friend, maybe a sibling, a brother or a sister, a conflict you've had in the past, and how you could have compromised with them. So think about a conflict that you've had in the past and a way that you could have made a compromise with that person. Okay? And I also want you to be thinking about your feelings and your emotions during that time, during that conflict. Okay, so I want you to think about a conflict that you've had in the past and a way that you could have compromised and how you were feeling during that conflict. Okay, so I want you guys to go ahead and you're going to journal that on your journal page, and you're going to draw a picture illustrating your story. All right, I'll see you guys next Wednesday. Have a great week.